All right, guys, we are back. So, the first thing I want to say about a live set is there's no right or wrong way to do it. And a lot of people, you'll hear some criticism from, I don't know, people who I think don't actually make the music or aren't DJs, so criticize people for, say, not doing enough. People who like play a push play live set. Well, that can be a little bit boring. There are reasons for it. And, you could break down your live set and have, a million different, control over everything. But ultimately, music is experiential. So no matter what you put into it and you're doing in the DJ booth, what ultimately matters is, what's coming out the other side, what the people are experiencing. And they actually can't see what you're doing most of the time. So if you're sitting there fiddling with 1,000 things and you've got this thing, amazing set where you can do everything you want, but it doesn't sound great, then what's the point? And somebody who might just be playing their finished tracks, with like Tractor or something, like, okay, so they're not doing very much. It's not really a live set, but if it sounds good, that's what's important. And also, I think that just to say that, producers didn't choose the term live. I a lot of times say it could be called a producer set, but anyways, it's the organizers who decide what it's called. And there's a big range to do it, and there's no right way. But basically, I'll show you that I have mine in two setups. So I have basically tracks and all my tracks that I've written, color code them a little bit, and I put them into two channels. So it depends on how, like, what the setup is at the place that you're playing. Because one thing I always do is I'll record a version of the set that's close to what I think I'm going to play, or planned out. I'll plan out something like this, and I'll show you this side in a second. Um, and then I'll put that onto a flash drive, and I'll put that in one of the CDJs, just in case. You never know if your computer's going to die, and it's nice that you can just put the backup on. Luckily, I haven't had to do that, but I know friends who have, and it's really a disaster if in the middle of your set your computer dies and you don't have a backup. So I always have one channel for a backup. Now it depends. So usually you have a 4-channel mixer. If there's 2 artists playing, then that other artist is going to need one channel. So, but some places that you'll play, each artist will have their own mixer, at some big festivals. And so in that case, if I have the whole mixer to myself, then I'll do it the way that I prefer to do it, which would be that I have channel 1 here, and I would be going to my external out, and I would go out one channel, and then I have my next channel going out to another channel on the mixer. And then I would have my tracks mastered, and I would have the cue points. I mean, sorry, not mastered, but I would have them warped. And I have, so I would warp them, and I have a free video I can show you guys how to do that. It's on my Vimeo. But so I warp the tracks, and then I would just cue them, and then I would use the actual mixer, to mix them in, just like if you were playing them off CDJs. And ultimately that will give you the best sound. And then I'll have if I have all 4 channels, then I have 2 channels with tracks, and then I'll be routing all this other stuff. If you can see here, whatever I have. So I have, if I'm using my modular, I have a clock modular and has the MIDI. Then I would have my audio in, which would be coming back in to, and then I have an albino channel here, different albino, one serum. And here you can see I am using some different MIDI modifiers, like that delay, EQ, the XLFO, which is going to the gate time and my density. And I like this when I'm playing live because I can keep the density on a knob and it's all the way up. So no sounds are coming through. And then if I want to just let a couple wop wops, whatever, some sounds from the serum, I can just do that. And then I can also switch between sounds, just switch the patch, and the whole setup is the same. So I'll do that, and then all of these sounds that I'm using, I route into a group channel, and then I would send that group to the third output. So then I'd have all my extra sounds being mixed through one channel, and that way, and so then here what you can also see is I've just set up, if I'm using short notes like this for the MIDI note length trick, then I just have each key. And so since they're in the group, I could just click the group here and everything's in key. So as I'm switching keys, I'll just switch the which one I'm here, and then everything is in the same key. And depending if they're a long note, short note, whatever it is, so I can just keep them in key. I have some vocal samples of random stuff here from shows and things that you would want to put in, and those will all go through that. And then if I was using, as I said, any external stuff, they would be over here. all going through the same group. And I like to do this too, because that way you can have the fader. If something's going wrong or some sounds too loud, you just move it down on the fader. Okay, so that would how I would do it if I have the entire mixer available. But in a lot of cases, maybe one channel's broken, you're on there with another person, you can't use the entire mixer. And so then there would be two options. One, you could DJ, you can have the two channels out, and then I would be changing this each time I switched and my main channel was going out, say channel 1, I could switch to sending my extra sounds to the other channel. And this works, but it's a little bit going back and forth. Also, it depends on what kind of set I'm going to play. If I'm playing an hour long and all the tracks are going to be kind of in the same like vibe, right? I'm going to be playing more of the Twilight set or more of a darker forest set. Then it's easier for me, I find, to just mix my tracks, you know, like this, playing them and using the clips view. But sometimes I like to, you know, do something where I go from, you know, a slower. Let's see here. I have some. If we go to the master and show me the automation, you know, I have some, I like to also play the tracks at their individual thing, but sometimes I'll go, you know, I'll start out 148. Sometimes if I play like 2 hours or something, I'll start quiet. I mean, I'll start lower speed and then go up. And so if I'm doing that, move. If I'm doing that, then a lot of times it depends. You know, my tracks sometimes are very different and it can be really difficult for me on the fly to mix one track with the other. Also, sometimes I have, you know, two tracks that I really like to play together in sequence. So this allows me to do that. And so if I have, and also if I only had two channels available, this is what I would do, because I still, for me, I'd rather not be just DJing two tracks, one to the other. I get a little bored with that, and I like to, you know, add extra sounds on top. So if I'm faced with just having two channels available, instead of having two channels mixing, what I will do is I will arrange my set. And so what I'll do is I'll put the tracks here and I'll choose where I want to play them. And so what you can see, if this looks a little weird, why some people you see have like the ladder thing where each track is on a different channel. What I've done here is I have the two channels that I showed you before are just the tracks and they don't have any EQs or anything on them. They're completely clean. Then I have a channel that has a high pass onto it, right? So what I'll do is instead of automating filters and frequencies on, when I want to make the mix, right? So if I'm introducing the part of, let's listen here. Sorry guys, I can go quieter. Okay, so, God damn it, sorry guys. Really sorry about that. So I just grab the clip where I want it at the crossover. So I would like, if I take this, I would warp my track, put it in, grab this piece and shoot it up to the high pass one. So then instead of having automations going back and forth and having to change things, then I just put this. So this is being high passed or this is being high passed. And then these parts are 100% clean and I switch them on the transfer. Now, the reason I also like this is then I can very easily change things on the fly. Say I decide that I don't want to play this track after this. I can just move segments around, right? I could grab this. If I just like grab this, the top here, right? I could grab this whole section and, no, come on. And I could move it. And then if I want to change things, right, it's very easy because I can just add another track at the end here. If say I wanted to keep going, you know, I could just take the part that I wanted to mix in. I'd be like, all right, I'm going to mix it here. So I put that there. And then I just add the next track and then keep going. So it allows you to rearrange things. If I was using EQs and stuff on each of these tracks and I had automation, I would have to change that automation every time. So if I'm going to do a prearranged set, I like to do it this way because that allows me the maximum flexibility to change things as I'm going. So I still could have a prearranged set, but I still can change things. If I'm playing here, I can be doing things over here, changing stuff around, and just letting it play through. So I can still actually, or you could even, I could do it on the fly, but I'm setting things up. And the reason that I like to do it this way, especially if I, as I said, if I only have 2 channels, because then I'll have, so these all 3 of these go to the master, and then the group, or so to channel 1 on the mixer, and the other group of my extra sounds goes to the second channel. So then I have my mix playing out one channel, and then I still have the freedom to use the faders and the EQs to add in my extra sounds, because it's really nice when you're playing a sound to kind of, you know, put the fader up a little bit and put it down. Also to be able to use the effects in the mixer, you know, to, you know, do stuff on your sounds. So this would be the way that I do it if I only have 2 channels available, and I want to, you know, I'm playing a set where I want to start somewhere and go somewhere. But again, it's not necessarily going to be exactly this, because since I'm doing it this way, like for example, say I just wanted to change these 2 tracks, right? So what I would just want to do is make sure that at the beginning they're lined up where they at the breakpoints, and I'm going to easily switch these 2. So now, which ones? I was doing these 2. So what I can do is I have an extra channel here. Also, this one that says tracks boost, I'll leave in case I'm doing my own masters or something, and there's a track that needs to be volume, you know, controlled the volume on its own. So what I can do is just switch these guys. Just put this one here. So now I'll put this here. So, you know, the set could be playing while I'm doing this. And then take these parts and switch them. So this is going to be the intro to the next, oops, grab the whole thing. So this one is now the intro to this, and this is the intro to this. So I just move that over, put it in its spot. You just got to zoom in to your right breaking points. So put that in there. And then again, go to here to where the point is. This one, then you just got to be careful about the fade points. And then I would put this here. Oh, and I have to change the one other thing. So I go like this, and then this one is then the other thing here is now I have to change this. This is the escape velocity, and this is this one. So I put that there, and I put this here, and now I've just flipped the order of those tracks, and it took me 2 minutes to do, less than that, you know. So I could be doing this on the fly. Also, when I'm traveling a lot and I'm playing every single night, this way it allows me to quickly move things around. And then again, also sometimes I like to keep 2 or 3 tracks together, and so then I could just grab the little chunk like that and move them around. So it's almost like a modular setup where I can just move the pieces around in my set, and it allows me flexibility. But also, the reason I like to do this too is because sometimes I really like to be, when I'm adding sounds and stuff, I don't want to add extra channels and extra sounds into the, you know, the like the peak of the track where everything's happening, you know. I'm going to be adding the sounds where there's, you know, in a dead part, like, you know, where there's like a clean, like, you know, I might be adding some things here, and or at the transition points, and it can be really annoying when you're like jamming out playing some sweet lead, and then you're like, oh crap, I missed the, you know, cue point by, you know, 1 bar or something, and you can fix it in Ableton. But I do feel that sometimes when I'm doing it in this mode, that I'm spending a lot more of my time counting, finding the things, which is essentially what a DJ is doing. But I feel that, you know, sometimes it can be nice, instead of doing that, to, you know, if you arrange it, so even though I'm still choosing the tracks, but then I'm putting it where I want, so I don't have to sit there and go 3, 4, 5, click it, you know. I can just let it play, and I can be yeah, so you can disable the space bar, which is a good idea. I forget how to do that, but yeah, you can disable the start stop on the space bar, because yeah, sure, it's really, you got to be careful about that, especially if sometimes when I'm doing things, I'm pressing the command button, which is right next to the space bar, and yeah, so that's the worst. But yeah, so I usually disable, and you don't need it when you're starting, you know. You can just click the top, the play button, and then, you know, if I'm using my backup, what I'll be doing is I'll hit play, you know, touch my mouse at the same time as I hit play on this on the CD player, so that they're both in tune, I mean, or in time. But yeah, so generally, I'll be honest that if I have the whole mixer, I'll like to do it this way because then I can have two channels to mix with the individual channels, and you because there's nothing better than being able to pull out the bass and stuff like that on the actual mixer. The one problem here is if you see in Ableton, they have what looks, nope, not that one. They have what looks to be, you know, a basic EQ that would work like on your EQ, your DJ mixers, but you'll hear if we play anywhere, hello, if we play anywhere, first of all, look what it's doing to the sound there. So it's not clean, it's not clear, it's not transparent. You would, you know, and I wish somebody would just like emulate the Pioneer, you know, thing perfectly. People do it. There are ways that you can make. There are some people who have made Max for Live and you or instrument racks that do it similarly using the EQ8 to make your own, which will sound better. It's a little bit complicated to set up, but don't use the EQ3, even though it seems good because you could use it, you know, make your own knobs on your own controller, but it's going to color the sound and it sounds like crap. So don't use that. So that's the problem with Ableton is that, you know, if I want to use something like this, then I want to use the actual DJ mixer. So if I have all four channels, I'll mix on the DJ mixer. If I only have two, then I'll do an arranged set like this and just jam out on top and let the transitions and stuff happen, and then, you know, mix breaks, mix things. And again, if I decide to make changes, I still have the flexibility to move the tracks around. I just don't have to actually hit, you know, play on the track to get it to go. So then I can be free to do other stuff. But again, this is just my way of doing it. There's tons of other ways to do it. You know, the good thing also about this though is that if I don't make any changes from my original plan, then also my backup recording will be exactly what I'm playing. If I'm doing it on the fly, my backup is usually close to what I'm playing, but not exact, good enough. You know, I've never had to use it, so it's okay. But anyways, that's this is what I do, and yeah, and it allows me the freedom to jam out on top of the set, and you know, I generally have more fun playing some music on top